Hello and welcome to the Man You're Made to Be, the podcast. My name's Charles Merritt, and my only qualification for hosting this particular podcast is that I am a man. I want to state straight away, though, I am not your typical male. I despise football, rugby, and basically any sport. Instead, my passions include Disney and tap dancing on a Saturday morning. In a world of toxic masculinity, the Me Too movement, and meme culture, this podcast aims to help us lads understand what it truly means to be a man in the 21st century. And no, it's not just the penis. After all, Action Man is still considered to be the most manly toy out there, and he has no penis. Every week I will be joined by the author of a book which shares its title with this very podcast, The Man You're Made to Be, Martin Saunders. I realise that makes it sound as though Martin Saunders is the man you're made to be. Let me clarify, he's not. But he has written a book to help us get through what it means to be a man. Think of this as a sort of book club. We'll explore the themes of the book without actually reading the book, which, come to think of it, is how most book clubs run. Hello, Martin.
Hello, Charles.
That was a mouthful.
Oh,
that was an introduction.
You did so well.
That was the first take. Would you believe that?
One take.
One take wonder.
That was there definitely weren't 6 other takes before that.
No.
Brilliant. Well done.
Now, we share a common love of superheroes.
We do, yes. What a good place to start.
Yeah. Who is your favourite superhero and why?
Well, that's a great first question. I know that I'm a Marvel man and you very much a DC man, and we go to the cinema together quite a lot, and we sit through one another's universes, as it were, often with gritted teeth. So I will come out of a Marvel movie and go, "That was amazing. That was the best thing ever," and you'll go, "Yeah.
Was it though?"
Yeah, that's what you'll do. Whereas I will come and see a DC movie with you, and you'll be like, "Oh, I love the way they referenced all the DC backstory," and I'm like, honestly.
Although you did love Aquaman more than I did.
I've got a weird thing about Aquaman, though.
I think it's Jason Momoa.
He is the man you're made to be. Yeah.
That is true.
How many times do you think we'll make that joke?
I don't know. Probably quite a few
Anyway, I didn't
times.
answer your question. Well, I think it's funny. So I can't admit to have been like a comic book geek before. I wish I did have this history of the comics, but I don't. So my favourite superhero is probably Thor, based on the movies.
Yeah.
Because I loved the first couple much more than most people seem to. Thor and the Thor: The Dark World. And then I think once you get to like Thor Ragnarok and the last 2 Avengers movies, he's just the best character. He's hilarious, he's powerful, and he, I think the development of the character is really interesting. They just keep doing new interesting things with him. So he's my favourite. What about you?
Well, probably Batman. Some people would say he's not a superhero because he hasn't got superhero powers, but I think that's what makes him the best superhero, is that he has no powers and yet still wins all the time.
Do you know, I was having a conversation with my son this morning, who is he's 14 and will probably get mentioned quite often on this.
Yeah. And
it'll be quite embarrassing for him too.
Yeah,
so let's start with the positive.
Yep.
We were talking this morning about the Batman universe. And am I right in saying that no one in the sort of Gotham City Batman setup has any superpowers at all? There are actually no one in those stories. I think of the villains like Joker and Penguin.
No, so there are
like
you've got Bane, who has like venom, which injects not the venom.
No.
From the Marvel universe, but like makes him super bulky.
But isn't
and
that
strong.
like a chemical thing rather than a
Yeah,
superpower?
they all have sort of. Although there is like Zatanna, who she's a hero, but she's like magician, and she often works with Batman.
But generally speaking,
the Gotham
whole
heroes
idea
tend to not have huge superpowers.
It's interesting, isn't it?
It is.
And there may be some. See me trying to tie this back desperately to the topic.
Yeah.
Some of our ideas around, some of our more toxic ideas around masculinity, could come from that kind of superhero world where to be the best man you have to be super strong, super smart, super rich. Bruce Wayne as a hero, he's like all the ideals of toxic masculinity, terrible with women, all of that stuff.
Yeah, no, he is. That is true.
Well, I'm glad he's your favourite. Let's
he
move
is
on.
my favourite. I came across Bouncing Boy. Have you ever heard of Bouncing Boy?
Is that a baddie from Batman?
No, he's a superhero. His real name's Chuck Taines. Do you want to know his origin story?
I think I do.
Okay, so he's on an errand for a scientist, and he's carrying this super plastic fluid in a bottle.
Okay.
And then he stops to watch, like, I think it's a hockey game.
Okay.
And then whilst he's distracted, he drinks it, thinking it's like a pop, fizzy pop.
Like a drink.
Yeah. And then halfway through, he realizes, but carries on drinking for some reason. And then it turns him into Bouncing Boy.
Oh, no. So he's full of some sort of super plastic.
Yeah, and he, like, turns into, like, basically like a massive rubber ball.
Wow.
It's a weird origin story.
Yeah. Because how would that work? Because if you drank something, it would just go through your system like any other fluid.
Yes.
It wouldn't really...
Well, maybe it interacts with, like...
Okay.
Genes?
Sure.
I don't know. But it got me thinking, what would be the most embarrassing origin story of all time? Like,
the most embarrassing superhero origin story.
What would be like, all the superheroes are sat around the table, they're all going through their origin stories, trying to outdo one another, and there's just one superhero who's just slightly on the edge, just like backing away because he's like, oh, mine's actually really awkward. I don't really want to talk about it.
It would have to involve a toilet, surely.
That is so weird. I thought exactly the same.
Yeah.
Like something like he accidentally gets flushed down the toilet, or like I don't know. I've never had it to me, but like bullies, like when they put your head in the toilet and flush it. What's that called?
I don't know.
I can't remember.
I had it done to me.
Did you?
Never did it to anyone else.
Okay. See, I feel like if that happened and then for some reason your face then became like flushy, or like,
no.
Like, I don't know, like a swirling water effect on your face, and that was your origin story.
Wow. Or you could be Pooper Man.
Yeah. All of those would be not very useful superheroes.
I thought that was a better joke than you gave it credit for, to be honest. I mean, off the top of my head.
It took me quite a while to understand what you just said.
Yeah.
Say it again, and I'll laugh.
So it could be Pooper Man.
So the first question that I've got for you today, Martin Saunders, is who are you? Who do you think you are?
That's a good question. Yeah, so I realise it's a bit self-indulgent, first of all, to do a podcast about a book I've written. And I'll just pick up the book at this point. Is that all right? Can I do that?
Where is it available?
This is my book, The Man You Made to Be, which is available from, I'd say, all good bookstores, but I imagine you'd have to order it in.
Yeah.
But you know where to get books. And so I realise it's a little bit self-indulgent to do a whole podcast series around a book. But the reason why I really wanted to do this, and it's not like we're making any money out of it, is that... did you know that?
No, I didn't.
Okay.
I wasn't aware of that.
Okay.
Well,
we've started now, so we might as well carry on.
Yeah.
But the reason I wanted to do it was because some people don't find it immediately accessible to read a book. It's not to say they don't read, but sometimes for some people reading feels a bit like work. And so we thought we would make this kind of book club thing, like you described, where you can choose to read the book and read along with it if you want to, but we will discuss many of the main themes over the course of this podcast. So that's kind of why we're doing this. I am a youth worker and have worked for a charity for the last 7 or 8 years around that works with young people. I think probably my whole career I've basically worked around what we call youth ministry. So I'm a Christian, so in a Christian context, working with young people around the church. And so this is one of the books that I've written to try and help young people in their journey. And so, I'm a writer and a youth worker. Who are you?
I'm Charles Merritt. I appeared once on Waterloo Road for like a millisecond.
Did you? I didn't even know that.
Did you not? Yeah.
No.
A millisecond. I stood up and clapped, and that was it.
I think
that was
everyone is going to be searching the internet for that now.
I think it was in series 7. I can't remember what episode.
Well, maybe we can find out.
We'll find out. We'll find out next time.
Because this is the content we need.
This is the content we need. That is not what I'm predominantly known for.
No.
I work as a children's worker.
Oh, yeah.
At the same church as you, which is probably why we know one another.
That is how we got to know each other.
It is.
So I run the youth work at our church.
Yep.
You run the children's work. And then we work together on stuff.
And we kind of like each other sometimes. We work...
It's more than that.
...relatively well together.
Oh, come on.
I think.
I was going in for the verbal hug there.
Yeah, we it's not just work.
Tolerate.
We've gone
Tolerate
to
each other.
Legoland together.
We did go to Legoland.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We've been swimming together. I feel like it's important to
clarify.
clarify.
Don't pull that story out yet.
I feel like it's important to clarify that we've done that with your kids.
Yeah.
That is not just us going to Legoland.
I mean, now I've got to tell the story.
No, you don't have to tell the story.
No, I do.
Let's save it.
No,
let's
I do.
Save it. Okay.
No, there's so many stories.
Okay. Yeah.
Let's tell the story. We took two of my children swimming, and they're both quite young. They're like 2 boys, 6 and 9, and we took them swimming, and then we were all in the big pool together, And then my youngest wanted to go to the little pool, you know, where you have like the little slide and the you know what I mean? And so he wanted to go to that one. So you said, oh, you stay with your older one. I mean, you didn't say that. You said his name. And I'll go with the little one. And so you guys went to get out of the pool together, and the lifeguard ran over and stopped me and said, hang on a minute, how old are your children? And I said, oh, they're 9 and 6. And he said, no, I don't mean those two. I mean the older one. And I said, what? And he said, he can't take your other child swimming. He needs your supervision. I said, that's a grown man, sir. And he said, is he? How old is he? And I said, he's 23. And it turned out that he had thought you were under 16. And my child. Which delights me every time I get to recant it.
Yeah, it's wonderful. And perhaps you've heard some giggling going on in the background. We've got a producer. His name's Ollie. You'll hear from him a bit later.
Oh yeah, producer Ollie.
But if you ever hear someone giggling, it's neither one of us. It's probably Ollie.
That would be a weird act of ventriloquy, wouldn't it?
Yeah. It doesn't work. I tried to do it, but he wasn't picking up on the
Let's
cues.
move on.
Yeah, let's move on. A wise philosopher once said, "Who you are as a person is how you behave when a grown-up isn't looking."
Yes.
Who was that?
That's my daughter. We brought up all my children in the first 10 minutes of this thing.
Nailed it.
That was my daughter. Yeah, I saw that. She'd written it herself and pinned it to, I think, the fridge. And I thought it was an incredibly profound comment. I'm sure other people have said similar things. This idea that who you really are deep down is who you are when no one else is looking. And that sort of gets to the heart of the question of who are we really, and what is integrity for a person? What does it mean for you to be the same person all the way through? To be the same person in front of your parents, your friends, your teachers, your work colleagues, your kids, whoever you have in your life. What does it mean for you to be the same person all the way through? That is integrity. And I think that's a great question, a great challenge, and it gets us thinking about this subject of character and deciding what kind of character we want to have.
Yeah. And so the opposite of integrity is hypocrisy.
Yeah, I guess it is.
So like when you're one person in front of someone else, but someone different in front of another person.
Have you done that?
Yeah, I think I do. I think I do that quite a lot. So when I'm at home, I'm quite antisocial. I go to my room. I'm like hiding. And then when I'm, at youth group, I'm like, whoa, nice to see you. Talking to everyone.
Which one is the real Charles Merritt?
I think neither.
Oh.
There's a middle Charles Merritt who just never appears. He's but if he did, madness, absolute madness would ensue. But I think we're all guilty of some slight hypocrisy.
Yeah, I think we always show people the side of ourselves that we're most comfortable with, the side that we want people to see. You know where that's become really prevalent is like social media, online, Instagram. You know that thing where you see somebody, you're minding your own business and you notice someone out of the corner of your eye taking the same selfie over and over again. You know that thing? They're just like, they take a selfie, they look at it, they're not happy with it, they take it again, they keep it, and you just think, gosh, you are desperately trying to project an image of yourself, which clearly isn't the one that just naturally appears. You want a sort of fake version that you can share with the world. And I think to some extent that all that does is reveal something that we all do all the time in different ways. We try and project a better version or a perceived better version of ourselves to other people.
Yeah, I remember in sixth form, it was during form time, and a girl came in and she just had like a face on her, like a smacked bottom.
Right.
Yeah. And like she was just like fuming, like she was really like tired, grumpy. Well, she came in and she sat down at the desk and she got out her phone, and then she just like did like a really nice happy face and then went back to it. Wow. And it was like she was Snapchatting someone else, but like she was just putting on the face of, yeah, I'm great, how are you? Like, and it was really interesting. I remember that really vividly because it just made me laugh, because it was like, that is just obviously not what you're feeling in that moment. Like, why are you pretending to be someone? I find it interesting in social media. My Instagram page is filled with posts that I like, so I do, and they're not necessarily glamorous. And I think I enjoy that. So the only Instagram stories I've ever done are the ones where I'm grumpy and annoyed about something. rather than my life's wonderful. So there was that time when we live in Reigate.
Yeah.
I think that's safe to say.
Yeah.
No one's going to stalk us, right?
No,
cool.
Absolutely not.
And we were doing Run Reigate, which is like I don't know, like half marathon thing.
Yeah.
And as a church, we'd volunteered and we said, yes, we'll go and help out at the race. And and I got in a minibus and I got taken on the route. And they dropped me off in the middle of nowhere. And so I was stranded on my own, like literally in the middle of nowhere. And so I was just Instagramming the fact that I was really annoyed that I was just in the middle of nowhere and had nowhere to go and was just waving a little flag on my own.
Was that was like the real Charles?
That is the real me.
That's the one halfway between
to know who I really am. Drop me off in the middle of nowhere.
That's what we all need.
Yeah. Give me a little flag.
Yeah.
Give me a really annoying purpose.
Yeah.
To just have bottles chucked at me. That was my job.
Yeah.
They were just chucking bottles at me.
As in, bottles had finished.
Yeah.
It wasn't like...
Oh, no. Some of them hadn't finished.
Just
they
target.
Just
target Charles.
Yeah. And I had no plastic bag to pick them up. So, yeah, it was weird. Anyway, that was a slight tangent.
It's a little tangent. But to come back to that kind of quote on the fridge. So this idea that who you are as a person is who you are when no one's looking requires us to think about who that person is that we really want to be.
Yeah.
And I think that the book talks about this idea that we'll get onto in the weeks to come, that perhaps we were made to be a certain way, like we were actually created to be a certain way. But I think also we have some choice in the matter of what kind of person we want to be. And I think some of us kind of struggle to actually stop and think about that. And I think it is a real moment of development in our lives when we, of personal development, when we sit and we go, hang on, who am I, and do I actually want to be like that? Do I want to be that sort of person? And I hope that through listening to or watching this podcast or by reading the book, that you will be inspired to ask yourself that question: what sort of person do I actually want to be? And I think our world is full of guys who have never asked that question, who have never really stopped and thought, who am I even meant to be? What am I even meant to be like? And I think the culture we live in is full of these complicated, conflicting messages about what a man is supposed to be like and who a man is supposed to be. And I think actually we can, to some extent, break free of that and say, no, like we have some choice in the matter. Mm-hmm. We don't just have to be shaped by our culture. We can actually decide what kind of person we want to be. So just to kind of put some flesh on that, some examples, like you can choose if you want to be a really honest person or somebody who will stop at nothing to get ahead in life. So you could decide that deceit is just going to be someone that's sort of a characteristic of who you are. That is going to be part of your character. Character doesn't have to be positive. You could decide that I'm gonna tread on whoever I have to in order to get to where I want to. Or you could decide I am going to be an incredibly generous person. Any opportunity I get to express generosity to another person, I'm going to do it. So if anyone ever asks me for something, I'm going to give it to them. If I ever walk past someone, a homeless person in the street, and they ask for money, I'm going to give it to them. Or you might decide I am going to be kind, or I am going to just love people, and it doesn't matter if they don't love me back. Or I am going to be someone who's really angry, and I'm just going to get angry, and people are going to deal with that. You've got we all possess the free will, as it were, to choose what kind of character we want to display and develop.
Yeah, I totally agree. And there's a thing of life throws you things happen in your life, and at each point of those you have a decision to make of how is this going to affect me, how does this form the way that I behave, how does it form the way that I'm going to live out my life.
And usually, quite often those are, not always, but quite often those are negative experiences.
Yes.
So a rejection or some form of loss happens, and you can choose who you want to be in that situation. And it's not always easy to make that choice. And it's quite often helpful if you've already kind of decided how you're going to react to those knockbacks. Yeah. But also it might be a positive thing. Yeah. So one of the ways I completely got it wrong earlier in my life was I got the opportunity to be the editor of my university student newspaper. And so no one from my college had ever been the editor of the newspaper, and it was a big thing in the university. And so I got this, and I became a total idiot, like a total idiot. Like I walked around the town like I'd walk past people in the street, and be like, "Hey, how you doing?" Because I thought they might recognise me from the tiny photograph in the in the newspaper. I would just regularly display such smugness to my friends, and I really thought I was it because I'd had this great thing that had gone well for me. I decided I was going to absolutely revel in that, and that showed up my poor character at the time, I think. And I'm so grateful I had some friends who sat me down and basically said, "We don't like you anymore. Like we love you, but honestly, the way you've been the last 10 weeks, we hate that guy. So stop it." And I'm grateful I had someone in my life. Everybody should have people in their life who will tell them when they're being an idiot. And I was grateful for those people. But so that was an example of like something happening that was profoundly good and positive. And actually, my decisions about my character in that moment were not good.
Yeah, and I suppose it relates back to what we were saying earlier about superheroes, especially Batman. And I think this is one of the reasons I absolutely love the Batman comics is what you were saying about the villains as much as the heroes. Like, they all have something bad happen to them. Bruce Wayne gets his parents murdered in the alley, and he makes a conscious decision there and then that actually, I'm gonna make sure that this never happens to anyone else. I'm gonna make sure that the crime in this city goes. Sure, he goes about it in a weird way, but his intentions change. And then we see other villains in Batman comics who have equally distressing backstories, but then decide that actually I'm going to do this instead and go about it another way, which isn't. And that you have a choice of constantly. There's a choice between good and I'll say evil. It sounds a bit harsh or like a bit extreme, but genuinely there is a choice between good and evil all the time.
Yeah, of course.
In terms of your character. And I think it's always useful, and in a few weeks' time we'll talk about this, but it's useful to have, as you said, like people who can keep you in check, but also people to look up to and to admire and see good qualities in them and want to be like that.
And for you, that's Batman. I've noticed we were in episode 1 and we've already had two fairly long conversations about Batman. This podcast is not the Batman you're made to be.
It is not the Batman you made. That was a good joke. I'm with you on that one.
Pooper Man.
No, don't bring that one up again. You're absolutely right. It's probably going to turn into quite a lot of Batman references from me and Disney references. I can only be sorry.
You really love Disney, don't you?
I love Disney. Anyway, let's get back onto the topic.
Okay.
So, actually, that relates really well. Look, it's almost like a natural segue. So my passion is Disney. My passion is Batman. I love those sort of things. I have a lot of other passions. I love writing, screenplays. I love acting. I love children's work. I love Lego. I love a lot of things.
Jaunty shirts.
Now, my shirt collection will get louder as the series continues, I imagine. This is actually a Coco shirt.
I thought it might be Coco.
Yeah, you can't. If you're listening, you can't see, but I'm wearing a grey shirt it's got skulls and guitars on, and it's Coco from the Disney Pixar film.
It's really good.
So you look out for the subtle
I threw
references.
you off there.
You did, sorry. But these are my passions, these are my desires. I love these sort of things. And they have shaped, the person that I am. Those things have driven me to do stuff. So, for example, my love of screenwriting drove me to do a screenwriting course at university. That really well-known university course and degree. That's what I did for uni. And, and acting has taken me all over the country, performing in
Waterloo Road,
but also in less glamorous places like schools and prisons and homeless drop-ins and all those sort of places. It's taken me on a huge journey because of those passions.
Yeah.
I suppose what we're trying to say, like in your character, look at those passions, look at those desires. What qualities about those dreams, passions, desires, whatever you want to call them, use them to shape your character and to drive your character forward.
Well, there's a couple of things that we try and discover about ourselves, I think, as we're growing up. And when I say growing up, I mean I'm still growing up, and I'm 42 years old. But one of those would be kind of our character. But there's also, we're all trying to discover our purpose in the world as well. And the two are different but really closely linked. So your character is who you are as a person.
Yeah.
You know, who you're going to be, the sort of person you're going to be when the chips are down, when you're faced with stresses or a really good thing happening in your life. You know, who are you really? Who are you when no one's looking? That's your character. But also your purpose is like, what are you here to do? Like, so we might have figured out who we are, but then take that person. What is the place they're going to find for themselves in the world? Yeah. What is it that we're on this earth to do? Now we can, in both of those things, we can drift through life. We can not make any decisions about who we want to be and let life happen to us, and we are just the person we are reactively in any situation. But also, if we don't have any sense of purpose, we can just drift through life. We can take opportunities or not as they come, with no sense of like whether this is really part of any grander plan or strategy. But I think what I want to really encourage us to think about is, if we can really think about who we are as people and what we're here to do, I think that is the route to the fulfilled life. Yeah. I think that is the way that you... in 50, 60 years' time, when you look back on your life, you'll be able to say, hey, like, I had my time on earth and I used it well. Mm-hmm. Like, I decided who I was going to be. I was that person. And then I did something with that made a positive impact on the world. And so I guess our journey together over the next 10 or so weeks is going to be about helping us to think about our character and also like what we're here for.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much for listening, watching, or whatever you're doing. We will be back next time with another episode. You can follow us on Instagram, and I believe this is the handle, at TMYMTB. Podcast? Does it finish with podcast?
It does finish with podcast.
So it's the initials of the book and then podcast.
And podcast.
The
yes. There's no like hyphens or underscores or anything like that.
It's just
you can follow us on that. I think that's also the same for Twitter.
That's the same for Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, everything.
Yeah. So if you want to follow us, watch us, if you're listening to this, hello, you can watch it instead.
Yeah.
We don't do anything crazy.
No.
At the moment,
who
knows?
Us. It's just us sitting here.
Episode 6, we might be on a unicycle. Who knows? At that point, we might not even get to episode 6. So let's not get our hopes up. But watch us, like us, comment, subscribe.
When we say like us, I mean we don't mind if you don't like us.
Yeah,
that's fine. But
we almost expect it. Cool.
And you can read the book as well. He keeps trying to end this, but I just want to mention this. But if you do want to kind of see this as a bit of a book club and follow along, you can kind of read a chapter and then there'll be an episode to go with each chapter. So this went with chapter 1, essentially.
And I would like to say that I have read the book.
Okay.
And I actually really like the book.
I wrote the book, so I can't really
I'm not
comment.
saying that because Martin's here, but genuinely I really like the book. It's very funny. It's got a lot of babbling in, which I like.
Yeah.
There's a lot of interjections.
It's not very different to this podcast.
No.
It's very similar.
There's tangents.
Yeah. If you're still here at this point, you'll probably like the book. If you've switched off, it's probably a surefire sign you shouldn't buy the book. Yeah. That's the deal.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we'd love you to interact with us and let us know if you are reading the book along with us. Then please get in touch and we'll include some of that. And it's just one thing that's been bugging me. You said, and I think it was just a slip of the tongue. You said Bruce Wayne had his parents murdered. That's not what happens, is it?
Well,
they have his parents there.
He didn't personally get them
killed.
I
see.
As in, like, he had his parents murdered in front of him.
Oh, his parents were murdered.
Yeah.
And that happened to him.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a profound difference.
Wow, are we really going into grammar and
Well, no, it's not
punctuation
grammar.
here?
It's just I thought I'd misunderstood the whole thing.
No.
Because then Batman becomes a very broken and evil character.
Yeah.
In fact, he's the villain of the whole thing.
Yeah. And maybe he is. Thank you. Goodbye.
Pooper Man.
No.